Tonight, Robin Gill.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Canada's hard-hit oil and gas sector is getting a badly needed boost, one that will help companies and workers. There have been repeated requests for aid because of COVID-19 and a huge dip in global oil prices. Now, the federal government is spending $1.7 billion to clean up abandoned oil wells in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC. Ottawa is also creating a $750 million fund to cut methane emissions. There's also help for businesses, $962 million, to help those who don't have access to traditional financial institutions. The Liberals say the aid will save about 10,000 jobs across the country.
Our goal is to create immediate jobs in these provinces while helping companies avoid bankruptcy and supporting our environmental targets.
But will it be enough to get the economy back on track? Abigail Bimman has our top story tonight.
Punched twice by record low oil prices and COVID-19, Alberta has been waiting weeks for help for the oil and gas industry. Now they have some.
We've also heard very clearly, and not just from industry, but from municipalities, particularly rural municipalities, landowners across Alberta, that the issue of persistent orphan or inactive wells is a real challenge.
$1.7 billion to clean up orphaned wells, not just in Alberta, but also Saskatchewan and British Columbia. And $750 million for an emission reduction fund that focuses on methane, 10% of it earmarked for Newfoundland and Labrador.
So this is, really important for small to medium-sized businesses. I think there's a perception that the industry is dominated by massive capital projects, big oil rigs, miles of pipeline, and in fact, it's dominated by small to medium-sized businesses.
One of them, Peyto Exploration and Development.
Disappointing. Woefully inadequate would be terms that I would use to describe what they're offering to the industry, particularly considering what the industry is going through right now.
Many hoping for a bigger oil bailout.
What the industry, I think, was really looking for was a package of liquidity to help bridge the time between now, as we face these really low prices, and when all of us as consumers around the world start to get back out and drive and fly, and demand for oil goes back up.
Cleaning things up while getting back to work is in line with the Trudeau government's political goals. You know their old refrain, the economy and the environment go hand in hand.
Just because we're in a health crisis doesn't mean we can neglect the environmental crisis.
Alberta's premier says today's help is critical and immediately tweeted his thanks. But Jason Kenney is clear more needs to be done.
I want to once again reiterate the urgency of the national government stepping up to ensure liquidity.
This was the first announcement about help for the oil and gas industry, but a government source says it won't be the last. This will be a multi-step approach, like so many of the financial help announcements have been these past weeks. Abigail Bimman, Global News, Ottawa.
Our David Akin joins us now. David, the funding certainly helps, but will it go far enough?
Well, Westerners tell me it's a start, but more is going to need to be done. The big deal here is that these two federal agencies, Business Development Canada and Export Development Canada, they're going to get involved helping mid-size energy firms who right now have a liquidity crisis. They can't get credit from their banks, can't borrow. Now, if the BDC and the EDC do their jobs right, that could mean billions for the sector, and it could save a lot of firms from going bankrupt, Robin.
All right, what about politics? How much is that a factor in all of this?
Well, a fair bit. But you know what? It's not the Jason Kenney versus Justin Trudeau kind of politics. It's really internal Liberal politics. There's a whole lot of Liberal MPs and some Liberal cabinet ministers, Heritage Minister Stephen Guilbeault, for example, who are dead set against the idea of a federal bailout of the oil and gas sector. So the political problem for the Prime Minister is design a package to address the liquidity crisis for a range of sectors, say manufacturing, tourism, airlines, and, oh, by the way, the oil and gas sector. In the meantime, the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers is asking the federal government to temporarily relieve oil producers of what they call some low-risk regulatory requirements, things like pollution monitoring or testing water quality. Now, environmentalists say this is just the oil lobby trying to get out from underneath regulatory requirements that it has long complained about and just using the COVID-19 crisis as the excuse. Robin?
David Akin in Ottawa. Thanks, David.
A global news special on the COVID-19 pandemic. Coronavirus, the new reality. Sundays at 7 on Global.